What if the very game the narcissist built to trap you became the key to their defeat? What if the same rules they designed to control your life were suddenly turned back on them, not for revenge, but for your freedom? The most common error in dealing with a narcissistic spirit is believing the battle is a human one. It is not. It is a spiritual conflict waged in the unseen places of the heart and mind. The victory you seek is not found in an argument, a negotiation, or a confrontation. It is found in a quiet awakening that begins to dismantle the very foundation of their false reality. It is a shockwave that leaves them stunned and disoriented, stripped of the power they believed was absolute. Before we begin this journey, it is a blessing to know from which part of the world you are watching and at what hour of the day God has guided you to this message. Truly, it is a joy to witness how the Lord gathers hearts from every corner of the earth, uniting them in one spirit and in one truth. The narcissist lives in a meticulously crafted world of their own design, a false reality where they are the central and most important character. Everyone else is merely a prop, a supporting player, a piece on the board moved to serve their agenda. They do not see you as a person with thoughts, feelings, and a spirit. They see you as a resource, a source of supply, a well from which they can draw validation, admiration, or even negative attention. The moment you enter their orbit, you are unknowingly cast in a role. You become the dependable one, the forgiving one, the one who can be counted on to absorb their cruelty and still come back for more. This is the first most powerful chain, the expectation of your unyielding grace. This entire framework is built upon deception, a web of lies so intricate that it traps not only those around them, but the narcissists themselves. The Bible tells us in John chapter 8, verse 44, that a spirit of lies has been a murderer from the beginning, and that there is no truth in it. When it speaks a lie, it speaks of its own, for it is a liar and the father of lies. This is the spiritual undercurrent of the narcissist's world. They are building a kingdom on sand, a facade that is completely hollow inside. They do not operate on truth or genuine connection. Their entire structure of being is a performance, a grand illusion designed to extract what they cannot create within themselves: substance, identity, and worth. The invisible chains they place upon you are not of steel and iron. They are far more insidious and much harder to see. There is the chain of self-doubt, which convinces you that your perspective is flawed, that your memories are incorrect, and that you are always the one at fault. There is the chain of false loyalty, which demands you protect their image at all costs, even if it means betraying your own well-being. There is the chain of obligation, which makes you feel indebted to them, as if you owe them for everything they have seemingly done for you, even when it was all conditional. And perhaps the heaviest chain of all is self-condemnation, the whispered lie that you are somehow unworthy of peace or true love, that you deserve the emotional torment you are experiencing. These are the burdens you carry, the spiritual weights that hold you down and keep you from seeing the path to freedom. The narcissist's entire game relies on your compliance. They require your emotional reaction, your need for their approval, your desire for their love. Your efforts to defend yourself, to explain your position, or to argue for fairness are exactly what they need to maintain control. Each time you engage, you are feeding the very beast that seeks to devour you. You are giving life to their false narrative. They thrive on the drama and chaos they create because it distracts from the emptiness within them. They are not actually playing against you. They are playing through you, using your emotions and your energy to keep their illusion alive. The moment you try to win by their rules, you have already lost. You cannot win a game you did not design on a board that is rigged. The only way to win is to realize the entire game is a mirage. The profound truth is that you can walk away from a game without physically leaving the room. The spiritual detachment begins long before the physical one. It starts with an internal shift, a quiet rebellion of the soul. It is the moment you stop trying to convince them of your worth or their wrongdoing. It is the moment you begin to see their tactics for what they are, a desperate, predictable pattern of a deeply wounded spirit. But this awakening does not happen overnight. It is a revelation, a gift from a source of truth that is far greater than their deceit. It is the beginning of the end of their control. But what happens when the very foundation of their false world begins to crumble, not from a direct attack, but from a quiet, unseen awakening within you? That quiet awakening, that first moment of clarity, is the true shockwave. The narcissist is not stunned by an attack you launch, but by the subtle, internal shift that changes everything. This is the moment when you stop playing their game without telling them you have stopped. It is the moment when the fog lifts and you see the elaborate script for what it is. You realize you have been cast in a role and that the relationship you believed was genuine was, in fact, a theatrical performance. In their world, you were not a person to be loved, but a character to be used. You were the rescuer, the victim, the source of their praise, or the object of their rage. Every interaction was designed to fulfill a need they had, and your feelings, your reality, were never part of the equation. The Bible tells us that there is a profound power in revelation, in the moment when truth breaks through and exposes the lies. In John chapter 8, verse 32, a simple but radical promise is given, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. This is not an abstract concept. It is a living, breathing reality that cuts through the deception of the narcissist's world. This truth is not something you argue about with them. It is something you experience within yourself. It is the deep, spiritual knowing that their reality is not your reality, and their version of events is a fabrication. The very act of seeing this frees you from the need to defend yourself or convince them of anything. The pain of this revelation is often as profound as the freedom it brings. You grieve for what you thought you had, for the person you thought you were dealing with. You mourn the loss of a relationship that never truly existed. You look back at countless arguments, misunderstandings, and painful moments, and suddenly see them in a new light. You were not crazy, you were not overly sensitive, and you were not wrong. You were simply a player in a game you did not know was being played. You were trying to use logic, empathy, and grace in a situation where those values held no weight. They were simply tools the narcissist used to manipulate your emotions. The realization that your kindness was their currency and your compassion was their control is a difficult and humbling truth to confront. But this knowledge is not a burden, it is a key. It is the key to unlocking the invisible chains that held you captive. With this new clarity, you stop reacting on cue. You cease trying to justify your feelings or prove your worth. The moment you see the puppeteer, you lose the desire to dance for them. This spiritual awakening is the true source of your power, and it is the one thing they cannot take from you. It is a fundamental shift in your core being. You are no longer fighting for a place in their story. You are stepping out of their story entirely and beginning to write your own. This is a subtle but monumental act of rebellion. The narcissist's entire world relies on your participation, your emotional feedback, your endless supply of energy. When that supply is cut off, their world begins to starve. It is important to understand that this is not an act of hate. This is an act of spiritual self-preservation. The Bible speaks of guarding the heart above all else, for it is the wellspring of life. The wisdom of Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 tells us to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Waking up to the narcissist's game is an act of guarding your heart. It is the deliberate, conscious choice to stop allowing your spirit to be consumed by their chaos. It is the realization that your internal peace is more valuable than their external approval. You are no longer defined by their opinions or their manipulations. Your worth is not a performance you must put on for them. Your worth is a truth given to you, and it is in this truth that you find your freedom. The narcissist cannot comprehend this shift. They will see you as a variable they can no longer control. They will escalate their tactics, becoming more charming, more threatening, or more pathetic. They will try every trick in their old playbook to get you to re-engage, to step back into your assigned role. They are counting on your need for closure, your sense of guilt, or your desire for justice. But for the awakened soul, those are now just hollow threats. You have seen the strings, and the puppet no longer dances. And with this new sight, you understand the most crucial part of this spiritual battle. Your victory is not about making them see the truth. It is about you finally seeing it yourself. Your victory is not about winning an argument or exposing their lies. It is about becoming untouchable by those very things. This is the first step on a journey of profound change. But how do you respond to this new clarity? The natural instinct is to speak out, to expose the lie, to finally voice all the frustration and pain you have carried. Yet, the most powerful response is not a single word. When you have been conditioned to react, your silence is a revolution. It is the single most powerful and terrifying response you can wield against a narcissistic spirit. Their entire world is built on noise, on the constant clatter of conflict, drama, and emotional chaos. They need your emotional feedback to know they exist. Your outrage, your tears, your frustrated attempts to reason with them, all of these are currency to them, a confirmation that they still have power over you. Your voice, in its desperation to be heard and understood, becomes the very thing that fuels their performance. So when you fall silent, when you refuse to engage, you are not just withholding words. You are cutting off their supply. You are pulling the plug on their entire stage. This is not a worldly tactic. It is a spiritual discipline. The Bible tells us that there is wisdom in restraint and that there is strength in a quiet and gentle spirit. In Proverbs chapter 17 verse 28, it is written that even a fool is thought wise when he keeps silent, and discerning when he holds his tongue. While they are expecting an explosion of emotion, you offer a vacuum. While they are waiting for an argument, you provide a peaceful stillness. This creates a profound and unsettling void in their reality. The narcissist has no script for this. They do not know how to operate in silence because their identity is not self-generated. It is reflected back to them through the reactions of others. Your silence forces them to confront the emptiness they have spent their entire lives running from. For a narcissistic spirit, your silence is not just a lack of communication. It is a sign that you have become untouchable. It tells them that you no longer need them to validate your reality, that their opinions no longer hold sway over your soul, and that their provocations have lost their power. They will see it as a threat, and their tactics will likely escalate. They will try to fill the silence with new forms of manipulation, with love bombing that is too good to be true, with dramatic pity plays, or with desperate attempts to bait you into an argument. They will try to find the button they have always pushed to get a reaction. But if you have truly awakened, you will see these frantic efforts for what they are: the last, desperate flailing of a spirit that is losing its grip. This is not an act of hate or a form of passive-aggressive punishment. It is an act of self-preservation, a deep honoring of your own spirit. Your silence is a sacred boundary. It says, "You no longer have access to my inner peace. My emotional energy is now reserved for my own healing and spiritual growth, not for the fueling of your false world." This is the moment you reclaim your spiritual sovereignty. It is the moment you stop seeking their approval and start seeking a deeper truth. The person who has been manipulated by a narcissist often feels a profound need to explain, to justify, to make them understand. The silence is a courageous choice to let go of that need entirely. It is the moment you realize that their understanding is not necessary for your freedom. Their acceptance is not required for your worth. The truth you have found within your heart is sufficient. This quiet strength is more unnerving to them than any loud word could ever be. They can argue against a statement, but they cannot argue against a peaceful, unshakable stillness. When they are met with silence, the narcissist loses their favorite weapon, your predictable emotional response. They are left with only themselves, and that is their greatest terror. They have nothing to talk about when the subject isn't them. They have no sense of self when there is no one there to reflect it. They become an echo in an empty room, and for the first time, the echo is their own. But this quiet strength is just the beginning. It leads to a state of being that is even more terrifying to them than your silence. This new state of being is not passive or weak. It is a powerful, peaceful detachment that reorients your entire spirit. It is the end of the war, not because you won, but because you have realized you were never on the battlefield. Detachment is not about becoming cold or indifferent. It is about becoming spiritually free. It is a powerful, peaceful state that is completely foreign to the narcissist's world. While silence is a tactic, holy detachment is a state of being, a profound and unshakable peace that no amount of chaos can disturb. It is the ability to see a person's brokenness with compassion, yet refuse to participate in the destruction they cause. You learn to love with a love that wishes them peace, but you do not allow their spiritual sickness to infect your own soul. This is the ultimate form of spiritual self-preservation, and it terrifies them because it cannot be controlled. The Bible tells us that there is a deep wisdom in protecting one's own heart and spirit. In Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 12, it is said that wisdom is a protection just as money is a protection. But the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. Holy detachment is a form of this wisdom. It is the spiritual knowledge that your life, your peace, and your soul are a sacred trust, and that you must guard them from those who would drain them. It is the realization that their actions are not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their own internal emptiness. When you understand this, you are no longer emotionally chained to their outbursts or their manipulations. You can witness their performance without feeling the need to applaud, to boo, or to join them on the stage. The world often teaches that emotional detachment is a sign of weakness, an inability to care. But holy detachment is the opposite. It is an act of profound spiritual strength. It is the courage to release your grip on the outcome, to stop trying to fix a person who does not want to be fixed. It is a humble admission that you are not a savior, and that the only true path to healing is a spiritual one that they must walk for themselves. In this state, you can have compassion for the wounded spirit behind the mask, while simultaneously refusing to be its victim. It is the ability to say, "I see your pain, but I will not allow you to use it as a weapon against me." This is where the shockwave truly takes hold. They are not just met with your silence. They are met with a serene, unshakable calm that defies all their expectations. The narcissist cannot comprehend this state of being. Their entire existence is a desperate chase for emotional supply, and they have developed an intricate playbook to get it. They use guilt, flattery, threats, and pity to get a reaction out of you. They rely on your empathy, your kindness, and your sense of duty to keep you tethered to their chaos. But holy detachment renders all of these tactics useless. When they offer a guilt trip, you see it as a desperate bid for control and feel nothing but peace. When they try to charm you back in, you see the mask and smile, knowing it is hollow. They are like a master chess player who suddenly finds that their opponent is no longer on the board. All of their planned moves, their strategies, their feints, they all fall apart in the absence of a player. They are left with a board full of their own pieces, with no one to play against. This form of peaceful detachment is the ultimate game changer. It removes the entire conflict from the narcissist's plane of existence and places it in a spiritual one. The battle is no longer over a title, a home, or a relationship. The battle is over the sovereignty of your soul. And when you realize this, you stop fighting on their terms. Your victory is not in making them see the truth. Your victory is in your own unshakable peace. They will not understand it, and that is what makes it so powerful. They cannot touch a peace they do not know, and they cannot disrupt a calm they cannot comprehend. This is the state that allows you to release the constant spiritual burden of trying to fix or save them. You are free from the need to change them because you know that true change is an internal, spiritual process. You are free from the anger and frustration that comes from their continuous failure to acknowledge you. You have spiritually removed yourself from their game, and in doing so, you have found the only true path to freedom. And this new state of being allows you to do something they never thought you would, to step out of the very role they cast you in and refuse to play the forgiving one any longer. In the narcissist script, you were not meant to heal. You were meant to perpetually absorb their cruelty, and forgiveness was simply the tool they used to reset the game. For years, you may have found yourself in a cycle of hurt and reconciliation. They would inflict pain, then use a performance of apology, a false promise to change, a grand gesture of remorse to get you to forgive them. The moment you offered that grace, the cycle would begin again. You were cast in the role of the unceasing forgiver, the one who would always provide a spiritual pass, a clean slate, no matter how great the offense. This was a position of spiritual servitude, a bondage that kept you tethered to their chaos and their lack of remorse. The Bible tells us that true forgiveness is a profound act of grace, but it is deeply tied to the concept of repentance and a changed heart. Luke chapter 17 verse 3 says, "If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him." The narcissist rarely, if ever, offers true repentance. Their apologies are hollow. Their promises are empty. They apologize not out of genuine sorrow for their actions, but out of a desperate need to regain control over you. When you offer forgiveness in the absence of genuine repentance, you are not engaging in a spiritual act. You are simply giving away your peace and your power. You are saying that their actions have no spiritual consequence, and you are unknowingly enabling their continued cruelty. The spiritual toll of this is immense. Each time you offered forgiveness to an unrepentant heart, a little piece of your own spirit was bruised. You were trying to water a plant with no roots. You were trying to build a bridge to a person who had no intention of crossing it. The narcissist's game relied on your belief in their potential for change, your hope for a better future, and your spiritual obligation to be a loving and forgiving person. They counted on the fact that you would see your forgiveness as a virtue, a kindness, a sign of your own goodness. And it is, but their use of it was a perversion, a manipulation of a sacred principle. They used your own light against you, counting on your spiritual strength to keep them in a cycle of abuse. The shockwave that stuns the narcissist is not just your silence or your peaceful detachment. It is the bold, boundary-setting statement that says, "No more." It is the moment you refuse to play the role of the perpetual forgiver. This is not an act of hate or of withholding grace. It is an act of spiritual liberation. It is the realization that your own spiritual well-being is more sacred than their emotional comfort. You are no longer responsible for their salvation. You are no longer responsible for their journey. You are no longer responsible for a spiritual contract you did not sign. You are free. The narcissist cannot comprehend this decision. They have come to expect your forgiveness as a given, an inevitable part of the cycle. It is a fundamental part of their playbook. When you refuse to forgive without seeing a genuine change, their entire system of control breaks down. They cannot understand a world where they are held accountable for their actions. They will try to guilt you, shame you, and label you as unforgiving or cold. They will try to convince you that your spiritual beliefs require you to give them an endless pass. They will throw everything at you because the refusal of your forgiveness is the denial of their very existence. They cannot be the hero of their own story if you refuse to play your part as the forgiving rescuer. This is the moment when you take back your spiritual authority. You are no longer a victim waiting for their permission to heal. You are no longer a savior burdened with a soul that refuses to be saved. You are a person in a direct relationship with a truth far greater than their deceit. Your decision is not based on their behavior, but on a sacred honoring of your own spirit and a refusal to participate in a cycle of spiritual decay. You are choosing your peace over their comfort, your healing over their control, and your spiritual health over their emotional demands. And in that bold decision to refuse to play the forgiver, you find a new definition of victory. It is not about making them lose, but about you finally winning a piece they can never touch. The world tells you that victory is about making the other person lose. It whispers that true triumph is seeing your enemy defeated, exposed, and stripped of their power. But in a spiritual battle, that is a trap. The desire for vengeance, for seeing the narcissist get their public comeuppance is a chain that keeps you spiritually and emotionally bound to them. As long as you are focused on their downfall, you are still giving them your energy and your attention. You are still playing their game. But true victory is found in a peace they can never understand and a freedom they cannot touch. It is a triumph without vengeance, a profound and quiet win that has nothing to do with their actions and everything to do with the state of your own soul. The Bible tells us that this path of release is not only wise but a spiritual command. In Romans chapter 12 verse 19, it is written, "Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, 'Vengeance is mine, I will repay,' says the Lord." This verse is not about a vengeful judgment. It is a spiritual liberation for you. It is the profound wisdom that says you do not have to carry the burden of seeking justice. You are released from the heavy, bitter work of evening the score. When you surrender the desire for revenge, you are giving a weighty burden to a higher power, freeing yourself to walk in a light and peace you could not find while holding on to bitterness. This is the true shockwave. The narcissist is stunned not by your hatred, but by your inexplicable peace. When you let go of vengeance, a profound shift occurs within you. The energy that was once consumed by anger, resentment, and a desire for justice is now freed up for healing. You no longer spend your time replaying conversations in your mind, strategizing how to expose them, or waiting for them to get what they deserve. Instead, you focus on your own spiritual and emotional restoration. You begin to build a life rooted in joy, grace, and truth. This is the ultimate defeat for a narcissistic spirit. They thrive on your pain, your conflict, and your focus on them. They win when you are bitter, miserable, and obsessed with their failings. Your happiness and peace are completely foreign to them, and they are the one thing they cannot control, manipulate, or take from you. Your triumph is not an act of public exposure. It is a profound act of personal transformation. You become a person who is not defined by the wounds they inflicted. You become a living testimony to the power of a higher purpose. Your life becomes a testament to the fact that peace can exist even in the face of spiritual attacks. This transformation is your true victory. You win by becoming a person who is free, whole, and alive in a way they can never understand. You win by walking in a light that their darkness cannot comprehend. This is not a passive surrender. It is an active choice to choose peace over conflict, healing over bitterness, and freedom over bondage. It is a bold statement that says you will not allow their actions to dictate your destiny. It is the realization that they can only harm you if you remain spiritually connected to them through hatred or a desire for revenge. By releasing that bond, you become spiritually invisible to their power. You are no longer on their chessboard, and all of their carefully planned moves have no effect on you. This victory is quiet. It is unseen by the world, but it is deeply felt by your own spirit. And it is deeply felt by them too. They will see you thriving, living a life that is full of peace and joy, and they will not understand how you got there. They will try to find a crack in your armor, a sign of your misery, a way to pull you back into their game. But they will find nothing but a peaceful strength that defies their understanding. And this profound peace, this quiet victory, this something truly unexpected. It transforms you into a mirror, reflecting a truth so undeniable that they are forced to confront the very emptiness they have always run from. When you walk in peace and freedom, you become a mirror. Not a mirror that reflects their false image back to them, but a mirror that reflects the reality of their own spiritual state. The narcissist has built their entire life to avoid introspection. They have created a fortress of lies to protect a profound emptiness, a spiritual vacuum at their core. Their existence is a constant, frantic distraction from this void. But your healing, your quiet strength, your serene detachment, all of this becomes a living, breathing counter-argument to their false reality. Your peace is a problem for their chaos. Your joy is a problem for their misery. Your freedom is a problem for their bondage. The Bible tells us that light has a way of exposing darkness, and that the two cannot coexist. In John chapter 3 verse 19, a powerful truth is spoken. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people love the darkness rather than the light because their deeds were evil. You are not an avenger. You are not a judge. You are simply a person who has chosen to walk in the light. And the presence of your light is a spiritual judgment on their darkness. Your mere existence, your thriving, is a constant, unyielding reflection of the truth they have so desperately hidden from. They can no longer blame you for their issues, as you are no longer there to play the scapegoat. They cannot use your energy to fuel their chaos, as your spiritual well has run dry for them. They are left alone in the room with themselves and a mirror that shows them the truth. This mirror is not an act of vengeance. It is a profound and unavoidable consequence of your own spiritual growth. When they look at you and see peace, they are forced to confront their own inner turmoil. When they see your joy, they are forced to reckon with their own misery. When they see your freedom, they are forced to face the spiritual cage they have built for themselves. The mask they wear so confidently for the world is now reflected back to them, and they see it for the hollow facade that it is. The charm, the lies, the manipulation, all of these are simply desperate attempts to avoid this moment of truth. But your rising, your transformation, makes it impossible for them to look away. They cannot comprehend the source of your strength. They will try to find a reason for it in worldly things. Did you get a new job? Did you find a new relationship? But they will be bewildered because the source of your peace is internal and spiritual, something they cannot grasp. They cannot steal your joy because it is not based on external circumstances. They cannot take your peace because it is not based on their approval. The mirror exposes their greatest fear, that they are, in fact, nothing without someone to manipulate, nothing without an audience, nothing without a source of supply. This is the beginning of their unraveling. Their foundation of lies is now being challenged not by your words, but by the very essence of your being. Their power was always an illusion, dependent on your participation. Now that your participation has ceased, the illusion is beginning to fade. They are confronted with the undeniable reality that the world does not revolve around them. They are forced to look at a truth that they have spent a lifetime running from. The mirror is a spiritual and psychological reckoning. It is a shockwave that rattles the core of their false self, a silent confrontation with their own spiritual poverty. The game is not just ending. The board itself is disappearing. The rules no longer apply. The player they so carefully manipulated has not only walked away, but has become a living testament to a higher truth. This leaves them completely disoriented. The tactics they have played their entire lives no longer have any purpose, and the person they so meticulously controlled has become an enigma they cannot solve. Imagine a master magician who, in the middle of their greatest trick, finds that all their props have vanished and the audience is no longer reacting. This is the profound disorientation of the narcissistic spirit when their spell is broken. For their entire lives, they have operated on a predictable formula. Provocation leads to reaction, manipulation leads to compliance, and flattery leads to supply. But now the formula is broken. The tactics they have used for years to control your reality no longer work. Their charm has lost its allure. Their guilt trips have lost their power. Their lies have lost their sting. They are left bewildered, like a seasoned sailor whose map and compass have suddenly vanished in the middle of the sea. The narcissist cannot understand this shift. They will try every trick in their old playbook, expecting a familiar response. When you meet their manipulation with silence, their chaos with peace, and their lies with truth, their entire sense of reality is shattered. The game they have played so meticulously their entire lives no longer has any rules. They are left with a feeling of profound confusion, a spiritual dissonance that they have no tools to resolve. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 27 that God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. Your peace and quiet strength, which they see as weak, are in fact the very things that are shaming their worldly wisdom and exposing their spiritual folly. The narcissist's power was never real. It was an illusion based on your spiritual and emotional ignorance. They relied on your empathy to feel shame, your kindness to be manipulated, and your need for their approval to control you. But when you discovered the truth, you were spiritually set free from these chains. Their power was a mirror of your own misplaced faith, a trust that they were a genuine person with a heart. Once that trust is broken, their power evaporates. The narcissist is not stunned by a new tactic you are using. They are stunned by the lack of a spiritual connection they once had to your soul. That connection was the source of their power, and it is now gone. This leaves them in a state of profound and terrifying confusion. They will try to find a logical, worldly explanation for your change. Did you meet a new friend who is turning you against them? Did you get a new job? Did you find a new person? They cannot comprehend that the change is internal and spiritual, rooted in a peace they do not know. This is a fundamental betrayal of their understanding of the world. They believe that everyone is driven by the same selfishness and desire for control that they are. They believe that everyone has a price. They believe that everyone can be manipulated. But when you prove them wrong, their entire worldview crumbles. They will escalate their attempts to get a reaction. They will become more erratic, more desperate, and more dangerous. They will try to pull you back into the chaos they thrive on. They will try to bait you, to insult you, to flatter you, anything to get you to react, to prove to them that their script is still valid. But in your peaceful detachment, they will find nothing but a blank page. And in that blank page, they will see their greatest fear, that they are utterly alone and their magic has no power. The spell they cast is broken, and they are left standing in the wreckage of their own lies. Utterly disoriented and completely bewildered. The shockwave you have created is not an explosion. It is a quiet spiritual tremor that has made their entire false world unstable. You are no longer their emotional compass, and without it, they are spiritually and psychologically lost. They cannot understand your joy because they do not know its source. They cannot understand your peace because they have never experienced it. They are left with their old tactics, a playbook for a game that no longer exists. This profound disorientation is not a sudden end, but the beginning of a slow and quiet unraveling. The absence of your energy, coupled with their inability to control your spirit, leaves them with no foundation to stand on. The profound disorientation they feel is not a fleeting moment of confusion. It is the first crack in the foundation of their false self. The absence of your presence, your emotional energy, and your willingness to play the game is the beginning of a slow and quiet unraveling. The narcissist's identity is not internal. It is a spiritual house built on the sand of other people's perceptions. They are a reflection of their supply. When that mirror is taken away, when the reflection disappears, they are left with nothing. There is no core self to fall back on, no spiritual foundation to provide stability. They are a phantom, and without your energy to give them substance, they begin to fade. The Bible warns us about the dangers of building on a faulty foundation. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 26 to 27, it says, "And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. And it fell, and great was the fall of it." The narcissist's life is that house built on sand. The rain of truth, the floods of their own spiritual emptiness, and the winds of their lies all come to bear upon it. And in the absence of a willing co-conspirator, in the absence of someone to give them substance, their house begins to fall. This unraveling is not a dramatic collapse, but a quiet decay. Their charm may begin to lose its luster. The carefully crafted persona they present to the world may start to slip. Without your reliable supply, they become desperate, and that desperation is unappealing. The lies they tell become less believable, and their charisma begins to feel like a tired performance. They will frantically search for a new source of supply, but they will be spiritually weakened. Their old playbook, which once worked so flawlessly on you, will be tried on others, but it will lack the power it once had. They are a vessel without water, and their old tricks no longer quench their insatiable thirst. The person who has healed becomes a living witness to this decay, not in a vengeful way, but simply by existing in peace. Your tranquility becomes a constant spiritual reminder of their inner turmoil. They will see you thriving, and their bewilderment will turn into spiritual gnawing. They will try to understand your peace, to find its source, but they will search for it in worldly things and come up empty. They cannot understand that your peace is a product of your surrender, your faith, and your spiritual autonomy. This is the part of the shockwave they never saw coming. It is not an attack, but a spiritual evaporation of their power. Their greatest enemy is not you. It is the emptiness they have always carried within themselves, now unmasked and left to fend for itself. This unraveling is the spiritual consequence of a lifetime of deceit. The lies they have told, the hurt they have caused, and the spiritual voids they have created are now all coming to a reckoning. They can no longer blame you for their issues, as you are no longer there to blame. They are left with their own spiritual poverty, and the silence you have created leaves them with no place to hide from it. The game is over, and they are left alone on a silent stage. While this decay may not be visible to the world, it is deeply felt by them. Their internal chaos, which they so masterfully projected onto others, now has nowhere to go. It is a spiritual implosion, a collapse of a false self that was never real to begin with. The stage is empty, the props are gone, and the phantom is finally forced to face the truth of its own non-existence. While they begin to unravel on the outside, a more profound, unseen battle is taking place. This is the spiritual war waged for your soul, a war they tried to fight on human terms, but are now losing in a way they never could have imagined. The game you played with the narcissist was never just about personalities clashing. It was a skirmish in a much larger, more profound, and unseen battle. This is the spiritual war waged for your soul, a war they tried to fight on human terms but are now losing in a way they never could have imagined. The narcissist is not just a person with a personality disorder. They are a person who has become a conduit for a spirit of deceit, control, and spiritual bondage. The lies, the manipulations, the guilt, and the confusion were not just psychological tools. They were spiritual weapons aimed at your identity, your peace, and your purpose. The truth is, your real enemy was never the person, but the spiritual forces working through them. The Bible tells us that our battles are not always against what we can see. In Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12, a powerful truth is revealed. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. This scripture reveals the hidden layer of the conflict you were in. The anger you felt, the confusion you experienced, the self-doubt that plagued you, all of it was a manifestation of a spiritual war. The narcissist was simply the earthly vessel for a spiritual attack on your very being. The enemy sought to use them to convince you that you were worthless, that you were unlovable, and that you deserved the pain you were in. This spiritual battle was fought with spiritual weapons. The narcissist's lies were designed to be a poison to your spirit, a way to convince you to abandon the truth of your own worth. The gaslighting was a spiritual attack on your memory and your sense of reality. The intermittent love bombing and devaluing was a spiritual assault on your hope, a way to keep you perpetually off balance and in a state of spiritual starvation. They were not just trying to hurt you. They were trying to spiritually bind you, to convince you to trade your freedom for a cage, to trade your inner peace for their constant chaos. They were fighting for your soul without you even knowing it was a battle. But you have won this battle not with a counterattack, but with a profound and quiet surrender. You won by choosing truth over their lies. You won by choosing peace over their chaos. You won by choosing to find your identity in a higher purpose, not in their approval. The narcissist, who only understands worldly tactics, cannot comprehend this victory. They are bewildered because their spiritual weapons no longer have any power over you. Your newfound peace and serene detachment are a sign that you have spiritually escaped their grasp. You are no longer on their chessboard, and all of their moves have no effect on you. The key to your victory was found in a powerful spiritual armor that they could not penetrate. The belt of truth, a refusal to believe their lies, and a firm grounding in the truth of your own worth. the breastplate of righteousness, a defense against the spiritual shame and condemnation they tried to place upon you, the shoes of peace, the ability to walk away from their chaos and find solid ground, the shield of faith, which extinguished every fiery dart of self-doubt and anxiety they threw at you, the helmet of salvation, a new mind, no longer thinking their thoughts or believing their narrative, and finally, the sword of the Spirit, which is the truth spoken by a higher power, used not to attack them, but to cut through the spiritual chains that bound you. You have won the unseen battle because you have spiritually removed yourself from their game. You have reclaimed the spiritual territory they tried to invade. You have declared your soul is no longer for sale. This profound internal victory is the true source of your peace, and it is the reason they are so bewildered and disoriented. They fought for your soul with human tactics, and you defeated them with a spiritual awakening. With this unseen battle now won in your spirit, a profound truth begins to settle. The person they tried to destroy is gone, and in its place is a new creation, an identity that is no longer defined by their manipulations or your past. The person they tried to destroy is gone. The chains they used to bind your spirit have fallen away. This is not just a moment of healing. It is the moment of a profound new creation within you. For years, your identity was subtly, slowly, and methodically co-opted by the narcissist's false reality. Your worth was a performance you had to put on for their approval. Your emotions were a predictable reaction to their manipulations. You were a character in their story, a supporting role in a drama that revolved entirely around them. But when you awakened to the truth and won the unseen spiritual battle, that old self, that old identity, began to die. And in its place, something new has come. The Bible speaks of this kind of transformation, a complete and total spiritual rebirth. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, it says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." This is the spiritual reality of your journey. The person who was once bound by fear, doubt, and the need for approval has passed away. The person who now lives is a new creation, one who is spiritually rooted in a truth that transcends the narcissist's lies. This new identity is not a performance. It is a reality. It is a quiet confidence that your worth is not something you must earn or defend. It is a deep sense of peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. It is a spiritual freedom that no one can ever take from you. The narcissist is utterly stunned by this new creation. They cannot understand you. They are looking for the person they once knew, the person whose buttons they knew how to push, the person who would always react in a predictable way. But that person is gone. You are an enigma to them, a spiritual mystery they cannot solve. They will try their old tricks, their old words, their old manipulations, but they will find nothing to latch onto. You are no longer spiritually accessible to them. This is the ultimate betrayal of their worldview. They cannot comprehend a person who finds their worth internally, a person who is not motivated by a desperate need for approval or validation. This new creation is a powerful shockwave. It shatters their belief that everyone is as shallow and emotionally dependent as they are. They are left bewildered, trying to understand what makes you tick, why their familiar tactics are failing, and what gave you this unshakable peace. They will search for a worldly explanation, but they will come up empty. They cannot understand that the source of your strength is spiritual, that it is rooted in a truth they have spent a lifetime running from. They are looking for an emotional wound to poke at, but they will find a spiritual scar that has already healed and is now a source of strength. The narcissist's entire life is a constant, desperate need for external validation. The more they receive, the more they believe in the false self they have created. But the new creation within you lives in a state of spiritual abundance. Your peace, your joy, and your sense of purpose are not dependent on external praise or attention. They are a product of your surrender and your faith. You are a tree planted by streams of living water, and they are a desert that has run dry. They cannot touch your peace because it is not for sale. They cannot take your joy because its source is not in them. You have become spiritually self-sufficient, and that is a state they can neither comprehend nor control. Your new identity is a testimony to the power of a higher purpose. Your life becomes a living, breathing testament to the fact that peace can exist even in the face of chaos, and that light can exist even in the presence of darkness. You are no longer a victim waiting to be rescued. You are a person walking in freedom, and your life itself becomes the greatest defeat of their spiritual tyranny. This new creation within you brings with it an unshakable joy and a profound peace that the narcissist cannot comprehend. It is the beginning of a life that is a mystery to them, a life of happiness they can never touch. The narcissist spends their entire life chasing happiness, but they can never catch it. They run from one source of supply to another, from one fleeting moment of praise to the next, in a desperate attempt to fill a spiritual void. Their happiness is a hollow echo, a fleeting high that is completely dependent on external validation. It is a fragile, unstable feeling that can be shattered by a single word of criticism. It is a joy that is not rooted in truth, but in a lie. But you have found a peace and a joy that is so profound and so quiet that it is completely foreign to their world. The Bible tells us that there is a peace that transcends all human understanding, a peace that comes from a source far greater than any worldly circumstance. In Philippians chapter 4 verse 7, it is written, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds." This is the kind of peace that you have found. It is not a temporary feeling of contentment. It is a spiritual state of being. It is an unshakable calm that remains even in the face of chaos. It is a joy that is not dependent on what you have or what people think of you. It is a spiritual abundance that no one can take away. The narcissist cannot comprehend this state of being. They will be bewildered by your happiness. They will try to find a reason for it, and when they cannot, they will try to destroy it. They will try to pull you back into their drama, to bait you into a fight, to see if they can crack your armor and find a trace of the person who was once so easily manipulated. Your joy is a threat to their entire worldview. It proves that a person can be happy without their influence, their approval, or their control. It is a living, breathing testimony against the lie that their way of life is the only way. Your peace is a problem for their chaos. Your joy is a problem for their misery. This is a silent form of spiritual warfare. Your peace becomes a powerful weapon, not because it hurts them, but because it leaves them with no defense. They have no script for your joy. They have no tactic for your peace. They will try to find a logical reason for your new life, but they will come up empty. They will assume you are faking it, that it is just a performance, because that is all they know how to do. But in your spirit, you will know the truth. You will know that the peace you have is real, and its source is a truth that transcends their deceit. They cannot steal what they cannot comprehend. The narcissist can take your money. They can spread rumors about you. They can try to destroy your reputation. But they cannot take your inner peace. They cannot steal your joy. Your peace and your joy are spiritual treasures that you have found on a journey of profound change. This is the ultimate defeat for a spirit that thrives on misery. It is a testament to the fact that their darkness could not extinguish your light. This is the great paradox of your journey. They tried to break you, but in their efforts, you were broken open to a spiritual truth that has made you unbreakable. They tried to make you a servant to their will, but in their efforts, you were set free to walk in a power you never knew you had. They tried to steal your soul, but in their efforts, you surrendered it to a source that has given it back to you in a profound and permanent way. This new joy and this profound peace are not the end of the journey. They are the signposts on a new path, a path of grace that guides your steps to true and lasting freedom. The path of healing is not a path of striving or forcing an outcome. It is a path of grace, a quiet acceptance that you are not responsible for their spiritual state, and that you are worthy of your own peace. This is the profound truth that guides your steps to true and lasting freedom. The world and the narcissist have taught you that you must earn your worth, that you must fight for your peace, and that you must prove your value to others. But a path of grace reveals that your worth is not a performance. Your peace is not a reward. Your value is a gift, and it is something that no one can ever take from you. The Bible speaks of this grace as an undeserved, unearned gift from a higher power. In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 8 to 9, it is written, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast." This truth applies to your spiritual and emotional freedom from the narcissist's grasp. It was not your perfect strategy, your clever words, or your superhuman efforts that set you free. It was a spiritual awakening, a moment of grace that allowed you to see the truth and to walk away from the lies. You were not saved by your works, but by a gift of clarity and strength that was given to you at the right time. This path of grace is a path of non-struggle. You are no longer fighting against them, and you are no longer fighting against yourself. You are walking in a state of rest, a spiritual Sabbath from the chaos. The narcissist operates in a transactional world where everything is a negotiation. They give you a little bit of flattery to get a whole lot of your energy. They give you a little bit of false approval to get a whole lot of your spiritual well-being. But a life of grace is not a transaction. It is a flow. You are no longer trying to earn love or respect. You are simply receiving it. You are no longer trying to prove your worth. You are simply accepting it. This is a crucial distinction that the narcissist cannot comprehend. They only understand a world of give and take, of winning and losing. But a life of grace is a state of spiritual abundance. This path of grace also involves showing compassion to others and to yourself, while maintaining your boundaries. You can see the narcissist's brokenness, the spiritual sickness that drives them, without allowing it to break you. You can have empathy for their wounded spirit without letting them inflict their wounds on you. This is a sign of your own spiritual health. You are no longer living in a state of bitterness or resentment. You have been freed from the need to hold on to those things. You have been given the grace to let them go, to release the pain, and to walk in a new and profound freedom. This path of grace is a quiet revolution. It is a rebellion against a worldly system that says you must be a servant to others' needs. It is a declaration of your own spiritual sovereignty. You are no longer defined by your past, by their labels, or by the pain they inflicted. You are a person walking in the light of truth, guided by a peace that transcends all human understanding. Your life is no longer a reaction to their chaos. It is a reflection of a higher purpose. And this path of grace is not just about leaving the past behind. It is about walking into a future filled with purpose. It is about a new alignment where your life becomes a reflection of a truth they can never touch or understand. You have moved from a place of spiritual bondage to a place of true alignment. Your life is no longer a reaction to chaos, but a reflection of a higher purpose. This is the culmination of your journey, the profound state of being that is the ultimate defeat of the narcissist's game. For years, your life was defined by their chaos, their rules, and their narrative. You were constantly in a state of reaction, fighting for your voice, defending your reality, and trying to find peace in a world that was designed to deny it. But when you awakened to the truth and found your spiritual freedom, you began a new journey, a journey of purpose. The Bible tells us that a higher power has a plan for our lives, a plan that is rooted in hope and a future that is good. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, it is written, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." Your life is no longer about surviving their storm. It is about fulfilling a purpose that was given to you long before their deceit began. Your choices are now guided by an inner compass of peace and truth, not by a need to please others or to avoid their anger. You are living with intention, and every step you take is a declaration of your own spiritual autonomy. This true alignment is a quiet but powerful force. It means that your thoughts, your words, and your actions are all in harmony with your new identity. You are no longer living a life of spiritual dissonance, saying one thing to please them and believing another in your heart. You are an authentic expression of the truth, and this authenticity is a spiritual shockwave to the narcissist. They cannot comprehend a person who lives with such purpose. They cannot manipulate a person who is not driven by the need for their approval. Your life becomes a living, breathing testimony to a power they cannot understand. This is the ultimate victory. It is not a victory over them, but a victory over the spirit of fear and control that once bound you. You have been set free to become the person you were always meant to be. Your joy is no longer dependent on their mood. Your peace is no longer dependent on their approval. Your purpose is no longer dependent on their validation. You are a person walking in the light, and your life itself becomes a force that their darkness cannot touch. The narcissist will see this. They will see your peace. They will see your joy. They will see the light in your eyes, and they will not understand it. They will try to find a reason for it, a worldly explanation for your profound change. But they will come up empty. They will see that their old tactics no longer work, that their lies have no power, and that their control has completely vanished. They will be left with a profound sense of bewilderment, because the person they once so easily manipulated is now an enigma, a person walking in a truth they cannot comprehend. This is the great paradox of your journey. They tried to break you, but in their efforts, you were broken open to a profound spiritual truth. They tried to make you a servant to their will, but in their efforts, you were set free to walk in a power you never knew you had. They tried to steal your soul, but in their efforts, you surrendered it to a source that has given it back to you in a way they can never touch. Your life is no longer a tragedy written by them. It is a testament to a higher power, and it is a testament to your own unshakable spirit. Your triumph is not found in their defeat, but in your own profound and unshakable peace. For them, your peace is the most painful defeat of all. They will see your peace. They will see your joy. They will see the light in your eyes, and they will not understand it. This is their greatest loss, because it is the one thing they cannot control. They cannot manipulate, and they cannot take from you. The narcissist's entire existence is a desperate, frantic chase for external validation and supply. Their happiness is a fleeting emotional high, a fragile thing that can only be sustained by the reactions of others. They have no internal peace. They have no core joy. They are a king in an empty kingdom, and they are utterly dependent on their subjects to tell them that they are worthy of their crown. But you, the person they tried to break, have now found a spiritual wealth they cannot comprehend. The Bible tells us that there are two kinds of treasure, and that a person's heart will always be where their treasure is. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 to 21, it is written, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The narcissist's treasure is earthly. Their reputation, their power, their control, their money. These are all things that can be lost, that can be stolen, that are ultimately a part of a worldly system that is destined to fail. But your treasure is spiritual, your peace, your joy, your identity in a higher purpose. This is a treasure that cannot be destroyed, that cannot be stolen, and that can never be taken from you. This is the ultimate defeat. The narcissist is not defeated by an argument you win or a public exposure. They are defeated by your unshakable peace, your quiet joy, and your profound spiritual freedom. They are left standing in the wreckage of their own lies, while you walk away with a spiritual treasure they cannot touch. They can no longer blame you for their issues, as you are no longer there to blame. They can no longer use your energy to fuel their chaos, as your spiritual well has run dry for them. They are left alone in the dark with the emptiness they have always carried within themselves. Now unmasked and left to fend for itself, you have won this battle not with a counterattack, but with a profound and quiet surrender. You won by walking away from a game that was not designed for you. You won by refusing to play the part they assigned you. You won by choosing your own spiritual and emotional freedom over their need for control. This is the shockwave they never saw coming. They expected a fight, a battle of wills, a dramatic confrontation. But you gave them a peaceful, quiet, and unshakable calm that proved that their entire system was an illusion. The magic has no power when the audience no longer believes in the trick. Your life now becomes a living, breathing testimony to this truth. You are no longer a victim waiting to be rescued. You are a person walking in peace, and your life itself is the greatest defeat of their spiritual tyranny. You have come out of the darkness and into the light. You have surrendered the bitterness and received a joy that they can never take away. The journey has been difficult, but it has led you to a place of profound and unshakable peace. The spiritual battle has been won. The chains have been broken, and a new, beautiful, and authentic life is now yours to live. The path ahead is now clear. The past is behind you. There is no need to look back, no need to relive the moments of pain, no need to be a servant to their memories. Your heart has been set free. Your spirit has been made new. The joy you feel is a promise of a future filled with hope, and the peace you have is a testament to a truth that has set you free. It is a blessing to walk in this light. It is a blessing to know this peace. And it is a blessing to finally be at rest.